Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. Well, we just finished the flashback Dark Age arc of Bungo Stray Dogs, and now we're back to the present. So, brand new season, new show back from the present, back from the past. Chopped my hair off, was like, let's do this, Bungo. Let's go back to episode 17, episode 5 of season 2. Man, that flashback was amazing. And the fact that it's based on a light novel, yeah, I need the light novel now. It needs to happen. But I wanted to point out Jeriel, hope I pronounced your name right, in one of the comments for the flashback episodes, made a note, and I hadn't really thought about this because we've got this past of Dazai and seeing just how dark his past is. But Jeriel pointed out that Dazai has committed quite a few atrocities. Quite a few. I don't know if this is mentioned in the manga or the anime, so I don't consider it a spoiler. It's just a piece of information. But Jeriel pointed out that Dazai has committed 138 murders, 312 acts of extortion, 622 acts of fraud, and those are all noted crimes in his 18 years before he left the Port Mafia. That's crazy! 138 murders before he left the Port Mafia. So yeah, Dazai's had quite a bit of a checkered past. And I'm sure most of you have commented by now. I recorded a little bit ahead on the Dark Age episodes because I didn't want to be spoiled. So I recorded ahead so that if there was a spoiler in the comment, I would have already known about it. But yeah, Dazai, even though he is now working with the agency and he has like this, I want to say he has a new lease on life, but I don't think that that's it. I think that he's just trying to honor Oda's request to become a better man. And that's why his whole conditioning with Atsushi is a lot different than Akutagawa. But at the heart of it, when you commit a bunch of crimes like this, like I've noted on my post-it here, when you've committed that many crimes and you've had that type of mentality embedded in your system for so long, even if it's been 2 years, you can't just turn a new leaf and become a totally different person, right? Like, Dazai is still the same. He's still calculating. He's still planning ahead. He's still manipulative. He's still a troll. He's still the same person he was while he was at the Port Mafia. It's just, he's one, not killing people directly, and two, he's working with agencies, so he's not committing these crimes, and he's trying to become a better person with that sushi and being a better role model or figure. So he's still the same person. It's just he's trying to do better. And it's painfully, creepily obvious to me now, the connection between him and Maury, Dazai and Maury, because they're so similar. And it makes me a little bit nervous that Maury's been around Atsushi and kind of planted those seeds in Atsushi that we've seen with him and Dazai. And I'm like, ooh, that's kind of ominous, right? It's ominous that Atsushi's had that whole calculating strategy, game theory things kind of planted in Atsushi, like we've seen with Dazai and Maury. Because as we have seen, Dazai and Maury, when they get to strategizing and planning, it gets quite intense. And like in Maury's case, he didn't care who died, whether it was Oda or not, as long as he got what he wanted. So I'm like, I don't know how I feel about Atsushi having come in contact with Maury now that we know about him from the past. So yeah, but I'm very curious to know the tonal shift. Everybody said that season 2 gets darker from season 1, and with the flashback of the Dark Age, yeah, we definitely see that. But I'm going to be curious now how that's going to transition back to the present time, because the agency, we know it's been fun, happy-go-lucky, goofy stuff, and now that we've had the serious tone shift, I'm like, how are we transitioning back? So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But yeah, these first 4 episodes of season 2, chef's kiss. So I'm hoping that momentum and that carries over into the present time with the series. But we shall see. So in any case, I don't have anybody to research this episode. I'm assuming maybe we'll get some stuff with the guild, since the cover thumbnail shows Fitzgerald, and I'm assuming the others are guild members as well. I'll be curious to know where we're going with that with this season. But in any case, I hope you all enjoy. Part 1 of season 2 is officially over. We're looking at 12 episodes, so curious to know how we're doing the next 3 acts. Or the next 2 acts, rather. So yeah, let's dive in, shall we? We are going to start episode 5 of season 2 here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Holy cow. Okay, so I'm going to be honest with y'all. I was a little worried going into this episode. I was like, man, the last 4 episodes were really, really good, and they were an awesome arc. I'm like, I felt like I was nervous going into this episode because I'm like, I just don't know how we're going to go off of that. How are we going to top that? How are we going to spring back from that? Holy cow! The guild is looking so intriguing that I am so excited. And they're just all here. It's just like, sup guild, let's do this. We're going to do an all-out war right here, right now. I am here for it. But oh my god, there's so much. In this episode, there was so much going on. I was like, I need to go back and rewatch the episode and pause it and talk about it because there's so much. And I need to write down, like, the one character, I know I'm going to research her next week because the whole golden demon I'm super excited about, but oh my god. So yeah, I'm going to write that down, golden demon. That's what I'm going to research next week for episode 6 with her. She's an interesting character. There be some crazies in this show. We need to talk about that. But okay, so first off the bat, the phrase that this woman keeps repeating, flowers that bloom in the darkness can only be at ease in the darkness. Like, that whole line there connects, she keeps connecting it to Kyoka and herself in this episode, but I also think that it ties to Dazai, and I think anybody involved in the Port Mafia, because she's like, a flower that blooms in darkness is only at ease in the darkness. So, I mean, she's referring to her and Kyoka, saying that we're only at our best when we're in our natural environment. And for us, our natural environment is the darkness, is with the Port Mafia doing these crimes. But I think it also applies to Dazai, because as we've seen in this episode, Dazai hasn't changed. No. And she, she kind of eats her own words there, because Dazai's like, I was with your group. We did torture, and he locks the door, and he's like, I know exactly how to make you talk. And it's like, it's like Dazai blooms in the darkness as well. He seems the most menacing and the most powerful when he's in darkness. And it's like, oh my goodness. So we also got a lot more, now that Maury's out in the open, now that Maury, we've seen his face, he's like just gonna pop up. Maury, looking like Dracula with his popped up collar here of his coat, reminds me a lot of this guild member that has a Lovecraft. Holy shit, we're gonna talk about that. With the long hair too. So yeah, but Maury and her, so she's an executive, this woman that has, she reminds me, if you've ever read Bleach or watched Bleach, Shunsui, he's one of the head Shinigami. His Zanpakuto has an appearance that is like the woman in that's like Kyoya, I think, or Kyo. I'm gonna look at her name. It's very much like her appearance. Especially with the head and the hairdo. It reminds me a lot of Shunsui's Zanpakuto in Bleach, her design. But I'm not going to go over the OP yet. I have a feeling we're going to have like 8 episodes to talk about this OP, and there's so many details that I'm like, it's just, all I can say is I love this OP. I love the design of it, and I love the song, so I'm super excited to delve more into it when we get to it. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. We're going to jump back to that, okay? So I'm going to have lots of time to talk about the OP, so I'm not going to spend it with this episode particularly. But, yeah, so we have Tanizaki and Naomi doing their weird brother-sister thing that I'm like, okay, sure. But they're researching, and I think the whole point of Tanizaki and Naomi having this moment together was just to set up the idea that Kyoka is the one responsible for her parents' death. That's their whole setup in this scene, is just to talk about that. And I mean, it's pretty obvious when he's like, oh, her parents were killed, and then she says, I was assigned to kill 2 people. It's like, gee, I can't imagine who those 2 people are. So the reveal of it being her parents was not surprising to me. I'm more curious to know the circumstances surrounding why she had to kill her parents. So don't spoil me. I know I'm probably going to find out, so don't spoil me. But that's what I'm more curious about, is it because she got demon snow? Is it because of that ability? Like, why? And there's so much interesting stuff brought up in this episode. I wasn't expecting all the exposition and all the characters to be introduced in this episode, so it was like a cavalcade of stuff happening. But yeah, Kyoka, the idea of her blooming in darkness, it's it's painfully obvious the kind of modeling that her being the Port Mafia has done to her. Because, like with the taser that he gives her, she is the most resourceful and strongest when she's doing, like, the acts of sneaking into the judge's office, but she's destructive. She's like Octagawa. She doesn't understand Dazai's whole rationale of the mafia is not just killing people. There's more to it than that. There's more manipulation. There's more behind the scenes. And Kyoka's kind of like Octagawa, where she just doesn't get that part of it. And she's only 14 or 12 or whatever, so she, of course, wouldn't understand that because she's not an adult. But, like... And she doesn't want to use Demon Snow ever again because she's like, Demon Snow just kills people, and I don't want to kill people ever again. And Atsushi is kind of in conflict there because... you can tell he's trying to think, well, like, maybe there's a way to use Demon Snow where you don't kill people, and we just don't get that far yet. But it's kind of tragic to see that Kyoka is very effective, but when she's being destructive, and it's like, and that kind of goes to what that woman... And Kyoka does not understand the tact of the art of manipulation. She's just like, well, you said it's time. We can't just wait around. And so she's like, no, that's not what we do. So, yeah, we get that whole scene of her tasing the judge. Thank God he was friends with the president. But then we go to, and I'm sorry, the cornetto thing, I had to, because if you've seen my Modao Sushi reactions, cornetto's like an ice cream crepe thing that's in there. So I know it's the crepes, but it reminded me of cornetto, and I couldn't resist. But, yeah, here's the thing. He's like, why do you still hold on to that phone? And clearly, it's kind of like, it's like if you're a victim of abuse, or if something has happened to you, you kind of, there's that, it's not only a reminder of it to her, but there is some emotional tie to it, and it's not good, it's not healthy, but it's hard to just abandon that, you know? And so it's important to me. So clearly there's a connection to her parents with that phone, and he's like, and Atsushi's trying to, like, as we move forward, we can figure out the remaining unknowns of your ability, and you can control your Demon Snow without the voice from the phone. So Atsushi's coming from a place of trying to help her be like, hey, maybe you can control Demon Snow and it can be something useful for the agency that won't involve you killing people. And, like, you can take control of it. Like, you can control your own powers. Like, giving her some agency in this. Because right now, she very much does not have agency over her power or herself. It's like she's constantly being controlled by other people. And Atsushi's trying to come at this from a good way and saying, like, no, if we can figure out how your power works and maybe there's some unknowns about it, you can be in control and, you know, have some manifest destiny here. But then he says the line, you can be an asset to the agency. And she's like, I don't want to use Demon Snow again. And that's when her phone goes off. And that's when this woman contacts her. And the woman makes a point. I mean, it's twisted and manipulative, but she does make a point. She's like, the agency's going to use you. And we'll talk about that in a minute because I'm going through this episode. And punish those who teach Kyoka a world of lies. And then, of course, Atsushi's attacked. And then we have this woman. And I wonder, too, if the reason why Kyoka is in the kimono is because of this woman. Like, this woman's dressed her up. But Omasaki Koyo, who is one of the executives, and her ability, Golden Demon. And she's, like, very, very pretty. Like, has this sakura, like the cherry blossom colored hair. And she's almost like a wicked stepmother figure. Like, she just has this, like, I think of Mother Gothel from Tangled, where she's just like, no, I'm going to show you, like, I do care for you, and this is why I have to take control of you and watch over you, because no one else understands you like I understand you. And her just stepping on Atsushi, being like this vermin. And I'll protect you, like, her whole thing. Because she likens Kyoka to herself, saying, I know exactly what you've gone through. Like, I tried to reach for the light too, and it didn't work for me, so it won't work for you. You know, I don't understand her crying. Like, she just seems like a very emotional woman. So I'm very curious and excited to research her author to know, like she just seems very emotional and, like, kind of crazy, and just her emotions are all over the place and kind of yandere maybe. But you've been led astray and mistaken their world full of light. But they will eventually ask you to use your demon snow, and let's return you to where you belong. So she's like, these people are going to be no different. They're going to ask you to use your power that you don't want to use. So you need to come back to where you belong. And she's not wrong, because even though Atsushi's trying to come from a place of good intentions, he was trying to say to become an asset to the agency. Like, yeah, is the agency going to let you be with them without using demon snow? Probably not. So she's not wrong. It's just she's no better, and she is going to make her kill people, you know? Whereas the agency is trying to help her find a way to use demon snow without killing. This woman, Koyo, is going to just use her for that anyway. So it's kind of like it's a white lie. It's double standard. And she keeps going on to this whole thing about blooming in darkness. And clearly Koyo has drank the Port Mafia Kool-Aid and is definitely on board with Maury and everything. But yeah, thank God for Yosano, right? And I'm glad we established the importance of Yosano in this episode, because yeah, I love the idea of Demon Snow and Golden Snow working, like attacking each other. And I'm curious to know their connection, because I don't think Koyo and Kyoka have very similar names. So I'm like, they don't seem like they're related. But so I'm very curious how their abilities, I wonder if it's interesting, because I wonder if it's sort of like we have with the flashback, we had Jeed and Oda having similar abilities and them fighting each other. So I wonder if that's going to be something that comes up with these two, because their abilities kind of are similar and clash. So I wonder if there's a singularity thing that's going to happen between Koyo and Kyoka. I don't know. It just seems really interesting that these two characters have similar abilities, and they're kind of like, Koyo wants to draw Kyoka back to her, like they're connected. So that's very, very interesting. It's kind of like people with similar abilities are drawn to each other, which is interesting and curious. But then, okay, I was so curious, because my Rocinante, that's not the same as Rentaro. Rocinante, I'm trying to think of that name. That name sounds so familiar. My Rocinante. And they get like this Winnebago popping into this sign and crashing into it. The roads in this... Oh, Rocinante was probably the camper, the RV. The roads in this country are too narrow. We'll just have to walk to our destination. I really want to finish this so we can go back. Okay, so we have John S., which is Steinbeck, and Lovecraft. Holy cow. Oh my God. It's been 4 years since I was last outside. So it's been 4 years since he was last outside, which is funny because it's 4 years since the Dark Age. So I'm wondering if this whole war between the guild and everything, it's been around the time that Mimic showed up and started messing stuff up for Dazai and the Port Mafia. I'm curious to know if Lovecraft being outside has any relation to that whole timeline. Seems like a funny coincidence that you say 4 years. Seems like a funny coincidence, like that's going to have some bearing. But okay, Steinbeck and Kinji being very similar roles. Our luggage is about to arrive. Okay, I'm going to talk about the whole luggage terminology in Steinbeck here, because I've read The Grapes of Wrath, and I know about Lovecraft, so interesting. But yeah, so of course they show up, the guild. Oh my gosh. But first, well, Kunikina shows up, and oh my God, I love Kinji's just like, let's wreck shit. Like, just watch Duck. He's polite. He's like, okay, Duck, I'm throwing this car at you. And yeah, and Kunikita showing up saying, are you a damsel in distress? Like, why are you on the ground? You're a freaking were-tiger. Get up and do something. Like, Kunikita being senpai here, being like, come on, rescue that girl. I love Kunikita's like transition. He's gone from last season being like, run away, leave her, to being like, what are you doing? Get up and do something. I love it. I love you, Kunikita. Awesome. But yeah, so then we have these two show up. I don't care either way. The stairs are making me uncomfortable. Okay, so guild operative John S., which is Steinbeck. His whole ability is Grapes of Wrath, and he's sitting here eating a potato. So him looking very much like Kinji. If you don't know Steinbeck, it's funny because he's kind of like the American equivalent of Kenji. He was a kind of a country, an author. And if you've ever read Grapes of Wrath, like I have, the whole premise of Grapes of Wrath is the idea that these people during the Depression move from the city. They head out to California because they heard there's prosperity and jobs out in California. So the whole book, it's a long book, is them trekking across the country like Oregon Trail style, going across the country to seek out this wealth and prosperity in California. And spoilers, when they get there, they realize everybody else had the same idea, and it's no longer a land of wealth and prosperity. Instead, it's like a dog-eat-dog world where people are just trying to get jobs and taking advantage of what's there. And then the book has this bizarro ending that is like, I remember reading The Grapes of Wrath and getting to the ending, and the ending's messed up, and I just threw my book across the room. I was like, no. And so it's hard to explain the ending without talking about the entire book, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm assuming that his ability, Grapes of Wrath, has something to do with the luggage, because he can I assume he can transport and teleport people, perhaps, because that would kind of tie into the Grapes of Wrath, the idea of moving one thing from across the country to the other. And so I'm assuming maybe it has something to do with that. Maybe that's his ability, is Grapes of Wrath. Maybe that's it, that he can transport people and teleport things. That'd be kind of cool. So maybe that's it. I don't know. But then I'm tired. Lovecraft. The ability, the great old one. Okay, I'm terrified of this man already. Not only from the OP where his neck like shifts crazy, which now that I know his name is Lovecraft, makes total sense. But if you know H.P. Lovecraft, his writing's messed up. And he is very well known for the fact that he has very terrifying monsters in his story. Like his like creations. Whenever you hear of a Lovecraftian monster, it's like Cthulhu. It's like weird, outlandish, bizarro stuff. That's Lovecraft. And it's like horror genre. So the great old one. Ooh. I'm going to hold off on researching Lovecraft till maybe episode 7 with the great old one. That just sounds like some demonic, ancient magic stuff that like is going to be terrifying. So yeah, cool, awesome. Glad that they're in this story. And they're gifted guild members. Yes, they are Kunikita, and they are probably really strong. Probably Steinbeck isn't super strong, but he can transport stuff. Our luggage will be arriving soon. Like, he can transport things. And I love Kenji's like, hey, he's in overalls as well. Cool, a like-minded soul. He doesn't seem nice like Kenji, though. And then, yeah, this whole thing bolting down, the luggage arriving. And I'm trying to say, yeah. And so we have 4 people show up that are not Fitzgerald. 4 more people. And then, yeah, Koyo's like, we need to fire on them now. And so the title of this episode was Three Companies Conflict, which is our 3 companies are the Guild, the Agency, and the Port Mafia. Fun times. I should have recognized what that title meant, but I was like, nah, it's fine. And then I love the idea of the fountain hiding the bodies. Like, that was a cool effect. That was really neat. So, there's at least 2 more members. So we're having the whole guild show up. So we have Steinbeck, these 5. So Steinbeck, Lovecraft, the 3 that came with him, Fitzgerald, and 2 more. So there's 8 members of the guild. And Lucy. So there's 9 altogether. Maybe Lady Louisa. No, that can't be Lucy. I don't think so. Poe and Lady Louisa. Ooh. They have a fear of heights, so they stayed behind. They should just die. She looks wonderful. And then Reverend. Interesting. So it looks like we're getting the same amount of guild members as we are agency and Port Mafia members, which is fun times. I'm super, super curious to know what they all are and their abilities. That's so exciting. But yeah, good thing we have Yosano, right? Thank God we have Yosano. So Kyoka is MIA. We didn't see Lovecraft, so I'm assuming he took Kyoka with them so that the guild are going to hold her hostage. And then pour out Sushi, bud. Your innocence is officially done because Yosano gets to work her magic. And he's like, oh God. And she has a chainsaw! I love it! I love it! I love it! I love it! Awesome times. So, here's the thing. We go back to Maury. Maury fascinates me to no end because he is such a blend of humor and creepy, very Dazai-like. Like, him and Dazai are very, very similar. But Maury's so creepy. And I'm like, he makes all this food. He makes all this food and drinks and stuff for like people that aren't there. Like, he makes way more food and stuff for anything. And he's like, why? And she says, sweetness is justice. And he's like, well, sure. And she's like, give me more food, Rentaro, and I'll consider trying on the dress you bought me earlier. And he's like, oh, cool, yeah, sure, have seconds. So part of me is like, is she even real? Is she even there? Because I'm like, okay, here's the thing. Here, they took Koyo away. Okay, I'm going to back up there and repeat what Chuyu said. Here's the thing. This is what's curious about Maury and Elise, is the idea that Oda, okay, Elise clearly exists because Oda, when there was the dress changing scene and there was the dresses everywhere and Maury was trying to help her change her dress, Oda knew the girl was there because he closed his eyes and averted it and was being respectful, and then made a joke about it later. He's like, oh, you were helping a little girl try on clothes. So she clearly is physically there. She exists. Part of me is like, is she an imaginary friend that he's just like imagining she's there? But she's clearly physically there. And Chuya, nobody says anything about all these crazy scenarios. Nobody says a word, which means either one of two. I thought for a second, I'm like, it probably means two things. One, Maury is so terrifying as the leader that they ain't gonna say a word about whatever crazy shit he does behind closed doors because they're like, we're not messing with this guy. Or two, it's part of her ability or something. I don't know. I just, don't spoil me on this. I know she's a huge spoiler. Everybody's told me that Maury and Elise are big spoilers of what their abilities are. So don't spoil me, but I'm just telling y'all, I'm thinking out loud. And it's just weird. It's just weird. It's some weird shit. Okay, so they say that the agency got to the scene ahead of us and took Koyo away. Okay. And we can't take rash action now that one of the top 5 executives has been taken hostage. So Chuya's an executive too. And he's like, right. And then, so she's just sitting there eating food. He says, okay, we'll just kill the president. And she's just like, I prefer assassination. If we hire outside contractors, we'll spare ourselves the labor. And we can focus on confronting the guild. And, okay, so, one, Maury looks creepy as hell in that moment, where he's like, we'll just assassinate him, it's great. Two, I like the callback to the Dark Age, because Maury is someone that does not like to dirty his own hands. Maury does not like dirtying his hands doing the dirty work. He would rather have someone else do it. Right? We saw that in the Dark Age, where Maury didn't want to take care of Mimic, so he sent Oda to do it. And in return, what he got out of it was that, we sent someone else to go do our dirty work, and we ended up getting the business permit, so it was a win-win for me. So Maury has no qualms with making other people do his dirty work and reaping the benefits of it. And so in this moment, he's like, we'll contract out assassins. We've got the numbers. We've got the ability. We'll contract out assassins, assassinate the president, and while we're doing that, and while we're distracting the agency with these assassins trying to assassinate the president, we'll go after the guild. We can focus on confronting the guild. So it's a very cool setup. I like that we're setting up from the Port Mafia's angle, that the Port Mafia is going to be focusing on the guild this season. They're going to focus on the guild and and contract out these assassins to distract the agency. Cool. Also, the visual of Elise stabbing the strawberry and sticking it down in the cream and like the juices running out of it. Like, Elise, demon child, terrifying. I don't like her at all. She's so, like, that visual and her just sitting there nodding like, that's exactly what we're going to do. It's like, ugh. So, yeah, Koyo has been taken hostage by the agency. And Kyoka's MIA, which I'm assuming she's been kidnapped by the guild. And here's the scary part, y'all. Dazai is like looking down at her like, hey, it's been a while. And she says, it has indeed been a while, traitor. So Dazai looks super pissed off and super stone cold serious. But here's the thing. She said it's been a while, traitor, while at Sushi's standing there. So does the agency now know that Dazai was a former Port Mafia member? Do they know that now? Or is Dazai banking on the fact that Atsushi won't put two and two together? Or has Dazai told Atsushi that he was formerly with the Mafia? We don't know. We do not know. But he looks super mad. And then she doesn't... And I like that she says, boy, is Kyoka safe. I like that despite her being crazy and having totally twisted, misguided whatever, she does want to know if Kyoka's okay. And then, because of you, she's missing. And she's like, it's fine. Everything's good. Y'all don't have her. And then Dazai's like, let me take care of this woman. She's kind of crazy. You just stay out here. I'll take care of it. And this is probably my favorite part of the whole episode is, I'm sorry to get right to the point, but we need to know what the strategy y'all are doing is. And she's like, I'm not telling you. Why would you think I'd tell you anything? Like, people who talk die. And he's like, your subordinates were marked with a brand that identified them as torture specialists. On the rare occasion they ran into trouble, I would help out. Meaning Dazai was doing the exact same work. As you recall, a single hostage has not talked after I asked questions. And then him cracking his knuckles. This is not for the eyes of children. Oh my god! It's like, oh my gosh, like, Dazai, you've not changed at all. You're just being nicer around Atsushi because you want him to not be tainted by, you don't want him to bloom in darkness. And it's like, oh my god, amazing. So whoever he's talking to on the phone is the place you used to be your headquarters. So that's where, before you founded the agency, which looks like a church almost. And only a select few know of that place, which I'm assuming Natsumi is one of them. We don't get him in this episode. So he's telling Kunikita, we're going to war. So yeah, this is whole end of season 1 was setting up this war between the guild, the agency, and the Port Mafia. And of course, I like that the president has some awesome martial arts skills because he's like, these assassins, whatever, they're nothing. And I like that we cut back and Kunikita basically giving that reveal to Atsushi without us seeing what the president did. That was really cool. I like that. And he's not going to lose to a dime a dozen assassin group. And I like the president is like, oh, go back to your master and tell him, good try. And this line, continue to target me and me alone. And that look, like that, just like him and Dazai having that serious stare. So I like the president is like, quit targeting my agency. You keep telling him to target me because I can handle y'all. And then we cut back to Fitzgerald on the boat shooting clay pigeons. As per the American standard, America, let's sit here and shoot some guns off. That seems reasonable. But I like that he's with Steinbeck. And I'm assuming Steinbeck just brought all that stuff over. It seems the agency has abandoned their office and hidden in a different facility. So it'll be difficult to find their new position. The Port Mafia have begun to make their move as well. When I was a boy, I worked for 2 years to buy a gun like this. And that whole thing, I still didn't have enough money, so I had to kill 4 men to get it. Like, how telling. And now I own the company that makes this gun. So, again, going back to the line of blooming in darkness, Fitzgerald establishing that I killed people when I was a kid to get what I wanted, and then I kept doing crime, and now I have everything that I want. But then after that, he says money is a nightmare. Every time you obtain something you desire, you lose something you desire. So it's kind of like, yeah, I did what I had to do to get the money to buy the things I wanted, but what did I lose in return? It's like, good stuff. And eventually the world becomes as tiresome as blue smoke rising from burning leaves. And that ties a lot to Dazai's whole conflict of Dazai being like, I've been in this world of darkness and now I just want to escape. I'm just tired. And that goes back to Lovecraft saying, I'm tired. So it's these people that have wandered around in darkness so long. Like Koyo talks about blooming in darkness. and that the darkness makes you stronger if you were born in it. But like in Fitzgerald and Dazai's case, it's like the longer you get in it, the more you just tire to be out of it. But you can't get out, so it's like, it's good stuff. Good stuff. And so he tells John, that's so cool. I absolutely love that. The idea of, he says, my world's so bright now. So that's kind of a contrast to what Koyo was saying. So he's like, money is a nightmare once you lose something that you gain something you desire and you lose something you desire. And then the world becomes tiresome. So it's just, it just becomes nothing but blue smoke rising with these burning leaves. And he's like, that's why my world is so bright now. So that's very, very interesting. Because Koyo talked about the light being lies and being, it's full of lies. So I'm wondering if that's tying back to the whole idea, because Fitzgerald's whole thing, Jay Gatsby's whole thing in The Great Gatsby was that he hid behind all this money and power, but in reality he was really sad and lonely and just wanted to be loved. And so his world being so bright, it's like, I'm kind of living a lie, but I know that I am. But what can I do about it, And then for a second, he lets John have the gun back, and he has these bullets, and he just kicks the bullets, or throws the bullets, and makes them explode. And that shot of him, like, the close-up of his face and him smiling, the city will be mine. So I'm like, now I'm curious about his power, because he just threw the bullets and made them explode. Don't spoil me, but I'm super curious. And I wonder if it ties into the ED, because there's the burning paper falling like burning leaves, and then there's blue, the blue and the burning, like so much symbolism. I love it. I feel like I'm going to be breaking it apart the whole rest of the season. But we go back to this meeting area, and that's when the agency decides to make their plans. So we're basically going to split into two. So basically what we've come to the conclusion... We've come to this conclusion based on the intel that the guild has financial assets. The guild's got the money, the Port Mafia has the numbers. So that's where we're running into our problems. So we're going to split into two groups, a defense group and offensive teams, and then attack them from all angles. So the critical goal for defense is to protect Yosano, because Yosano is their crutch. The other teams don't have a Yosano, so it's important that she does not die and that we keep her safe. So in that team protecting her, it's Tanizaki, which is a good smart plan, Rampo, or no, it's not. It's Kinji and Rampo and the president. So that makes sense. Rampo can try to map things out and help them plot their defense because he's got his deduction powers. Kinji can protect Yosano, and the president can protect her as well. That all makes sense. So then team A is Kunikita and Tanizaki. Okay. And then, of course, it's Dazai and Sushi. Of course it is. I can't imagine that they will run into Octagawa. I can't imagine that's going to happen. So we have to keep our operation base hidden. And, of course, you say, Dazai, that our defense won't hold up if we're discovered. And then I'm imagining that they know that Dazai has an idea that they're tracking the president. I would imagine because Dazai is kind of like one step ahead of everybody. And then Chuya, of course, is saying, and I find, Chuya says, we put some radioactive tracking stuff on the president so that they know where they're at. But I wonder if that's part of Dazai's plan, too, is taking that into account, that they would trace him. What's interesting, y'all, is the chairs, and what I'm just noticing from this episode is Maury's at his desk in the shadows, as per usual, but instead of like two chairs facing the window, now there's one chair facing the window, one chair facing away. So it's an odd angle for you to have chairs. It's almost like the angle you would do if you're going to interrogate somebody. You'd have a chair facing away from him that he could sit someone in and interrogate them. So that's interesting. And then Chuya is being put on the trail. Of course. Only one of the three organizations can survive, and our only course of action is to fight. And then everybody thinks they're going to be the last one standing. And Maury's like, of course we'll be the last one standing. And then Fitzgerald's like, I'm looking forward to the results. A three-way gifted war. And next episode is the strategy of conflict. Oh my gosh, this episode. There's so much symbolism. And then the ED too, so much being brought up. I have a feeling I'm going to be talking about the ED and the OP the rest of the season, so I won't go into more detail about that yet. But I want to research Koyo for the next episode, and then I want to research probably Lovecraft, the old one, after that, because I know Grapes of Wrath. I pretty much talked about Grapes of Wrath in this episode, and I think that's the whole luggage ability. But I like that the EDs are connecting. That's cool. So I'm going to talk about that next episode, Koyo and Golden Demon. But, oh man, I was worried that after that awesome Dark Age arc, it wouldn't hold up going back to regular schedule, business as usual. But no, things are getting interesting, and I'm so on board, y'all. I'm loving this second season, and I hope y'all suffered through my rambling for like the last 30 minutes about this episode, but there's so much awesome stuff, and it has me excited for what's to come. So, yeah, fun times. So yeah, I'm excited for episode 18/episode 6 of Bungo Stray Dogs Season 2. I hope y'all are as well. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers, but I'm curious to know what you guys thought of the episode. So yeah, in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll be back next week with episode 6 of Bungo Stray Dogs Season 2. Bye.